is being video and audio taped. I don't believe anyone in this committee is audio or videotaping. I need to make that announcement. And it will be reflected in our minutes that it is being done. Okay. We've got coming in tonight, we've got the fire chief, we've got the tax collector, and we've got Parks and Rec. Oh, yes. Yeah, we're gonna get one list.
That's what I was gonna say.
You gotta pick that whole bench up and bring it over.
Over there, yeah.
Just
so
so
you know, that's fine,
Bill's
yeah.
office. Bill's office.
This is,
jail.
Are you sure?
yeah, sure, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll get bring help in now.
Steve, you can have this spot. I'm gonna sit right here. I'm gonna get it here.
Thank you.
You don't want to sit next to him, because he's in trouble.
That's why I'm sitting over here by myself.
Exactly.
Put him at the little kid
I
desk.
mean, put the worst character over by themselves. That's the way,
We only got half of that show now, you know.
that's right.
You chase the other one away.
As it should have been.
Oh, there he comes back.
The fire chief coming in,
Adam is coming in.
how come his budget's not finished? How come he come in to finish budget?
What do you mean he doesn't have a finished budget?
You don't have no budget numbers for fiscal 2015.
Where?
Is this 2015?
Yes. One side is
Oh,
level.
I didn't read this side, I didn't see that.
One side is level and one side is what he feels his department should have. From being fire chief now for over a year.
Thank you.
He's made some observations. But what we put into our report is level funded, level service.
Thank you.
So what I gave out to you tonight, a couple of it's just information things. A long time ago, I had gotten, we talked about visuals for a presentation, and that's what this is, a breakdown of where everything goes. It's just an example from another town, I forget what you was in, I think it was Southwick, that I got this from when I was at a meeting. And I thought it was a good idea, breaks down the tax rate by dollar, so it might be something we can look at doing.
This is kind of how the preliminary one I have.
Yeah,
And all the figures have changed and you tell me what figure goes into what category.
yeah. I think I emailed everyone the Quabog budget booklet that we got. Kenny, I gave you a hard copy. Jerry, I gave you the other half of your copy since your printer broke.
Yeah, mine didn't.
No, it didn't print it. I mean, it didn't break, it just didn't print anymore besides,
Well, anyway, now you have it.
14.
I talked a little bit about how Barry, Mass is statistically similar to us as far as population and makeup. These two pages put together are just a couple of pages out of their handbook, out of their FinCom book. As far as, we were always wondering how many people make up their big departments, their fire, their highway, their ambulance, police, and they detail it out in their booklet, so I copied that. Just to give us an idea and see how we stand up against someone that's similar in population. I did email you the actual booklet that the admin sent to me for the FY2014 fiscal year that I presented at town meeting last year. This one here was an older one that was on the website that I printed. Go. Before we come back, I believe that's Carrie, right?
Who?
Carrie Schmidt.
Yep.
I've never seen her before. So know what she looks like.
That's
I'm
right.
used to Debbie.
I've seen it around, but I don't know.
She is our new tax collector. I also gave out the updated today's numbers for our spreadsheet. So we can see where we stand. Last night was the,
How was the
excuse me.
meal?
Huh?
How was the food?
It was crappy, I was mad.
You mean I lucked out?
You did, you lucked out.
Good
And it was raining out and,
It was nasty.
yeah, it was kind of nasty. Anyway, but good news at least, the Pathfinder budget presentation was last night. They're presenting 2 budgets to their school committee last night. Both were a reduction, amazing enough. One was a 0.97% reduction, and one was a 0.34% reduction. The smaller of the reductions included, $87,000 in capital for equipment for the various tech classes. They felt that they should do that this year because next year they probably won't do any capital requests for equipment because the town, they're doing a roof project and that will be the first year, not FY15, but FY16 will be the first bond payment for the school roof project. And they didn't want to impact the towns with both things. So I thought that was wise. They saved a lot on their insurance. They saved about $160,000, $170,000 because they changed plans and they changed their percentage ratio from an 85-15 split with the teachers and administration to an 80-20 plan. So that was also good. I think those were pretty much all the highlights for that meeting. And again, the food wasn't very good. I was disappointed.
You said our enrollment was down,
Yes, our enrollment was down 9 students,
so we decreased by 47,000?
35,000.
Sure. It was 37.
Hold on, little numbers, open. $47,000.
Paying attention.
Ha. Okay, Carrie,
Yes.
come on up. We don't have our normal hot seat like we do upstairs.
Oh, well, I'm sure this one's hot enough.
I'm Sue Como, I chair. Jerry Sauer,
Hi.
he's also chairs capital planning. Dario Nardi, Stephanie Hadley,
Hi.
Barry Mongeon, Steve
Steve
Rust.
Yep.
I want to call you Tom Rust, but he's a teacher. And Kenny Frazier. So how do you like being the tax collector?
I love it.
Good.
It's a nice job.
Now, how long did you work for Debbie before you took over?
3.5 years.
3.5 years?
Yeah, so I got my feet wet and got to know the processes of the office. And stuff.
Mhm.
Had the opportunity to go to tax school for
Yeah.
a couple of years in a row. So I think I know what I'm doing.
That's good. That's good. Now, how many more classes did you need to take to get your certification that,
Well,
for that stipend?
it's more time
More time?
than classes. I've taken all the required classes, but I need time. And the thing is, Cindy, my new assistant, I'd like to send her to school next year.
Mhm.
They have, the certification tests and school are all during the same week, so I don't really feel like both of us should be out of the office at the same time. So I'd let her go for a year, I think, and then maybe I'd go back to get certified. So,
And how's collections?
good. We're cranking along. It's what we just had third quarter real estate to February 3rd.
Mhm.
And then 2014 motor vehicles to Monday. So, yeah, we've just been just about keeping our heads above water with the work in the office.
But you're seeing it coming in positively so far?
Oh, yeah, we're doing good. We're gonna take 2012's to tax title, the fiscal year 12 real
Mhm.
estate to tax title, probably by the beginning of June, I think. There's
Give
about-
it one last shot to try to pay and,
Yeah, you know, I wrote letters, about 3 months ago, and I'm gonna write letters again. You try to make it sound like, you know, you're at risk of foreclosure here, so. And there are some accounts that have like $40 left to pay. And,
Yeah.
you know, just the fees for the registry alone is $75, you know, per account, so it doesn't really make sense not to pay, but I think some people just don't even care. Like, if you got a little slice of land that you haven't, and you moved out of town, you know,
Yeah.
you don't care if the town takes it, and it's not worth the town to take it with the legal fees and
no,
everything, so.
super, they should see it in a butter, a neighbor will buy it.
Yeah, yep. So,
Now, are the banks being cooperative with you, like with REO properties, with bank-owned properties? Are you having any issues that way?
no, most of the banks pay, because, you know, there's one Deutsche Bank that's, it's 190 Ware Road, they don't seem to be particularly interested in paying that bill, but all the other bank-owned properties, banks want to keep it up to maintain their interest, so.
Yeah, that's the little blue house, the beige house.
Yeah, grayish with a curve, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I thought somebody else bought that. Who was the one that was buying all the Econo homes out of Texas? They were buying,
Yeah.
I think they had bought it. They had bought the deeds for them.
Yeah, I think, actually, I think that one is in tax credit bill already. I think it went in last year, so.
Yeah.
So I think he's getting ready to take it, so I think it's still property of Deutsche Bank.
Yeah. I know they've taken, the yellow one on West Ware Road, yeah, I'm excited about that. Okay, anyway. So your budget, which I gave everybody a copy so they could see. It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You obviously took out the $1,000 stipend because you don't qualify for that. The only big increase was unfortunately something we don't have any control of, and that's your software that you use.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
I think,
license.
and I think even though, no, it's not enough, from what Debbie said, they're the least expensive ones in the market. And the sewer department has kind of looked into quotes from Munis and Vadar, who are the other municipal software companies that we see the others, and those were much higher than Point had to offer, so I think Point is the most,
And your support's been good to you?
they're great, that's
Yeah.
really, really good.
And how's all your equipment holding up in your office, all right?
Great, yeah, we have a new computer, she bought out of her, fee money, and a new printer, so, yeah, we're good to go. The other computers, she got it in 2007, but it's running great, you know, it's in good shape, which I probably shouldn't say that, but it's coming out my day.
I know what. Well, I know the Board of Health was disappointed that you got your assistant because.
Well, they're gonna have to pounce in.
But Kenny makes a very nice Board of Health secretary.
Yeah.
What else was there? Does anybody on my board have any questions, comments? No? Everybody?
Pretty straightforward.
That's good.
Okay, excellent.
Is it your board or everybody's board?
Sorry, it was just a figure of speech.
I know,
Nothing
it's a
intended.
slip, Freudian slip.
But if you need anything from us, just come on down.
You bet, I will. Okay,
Enjoy your evening.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet those of you. I
Have
have.
a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
Hey, you want a cookie?
No, thanks, somebody actually brought cookies?
Yeah, I did, I'm serious. You can
Yeah,
have one.
Brian brought cookies.
Yeah, I have to go
If
home and
anyone
have
wants
supper.
it.
Thanks anyway.
Mr. Corvo brought us some cookies. Because he wasn't supposed to buy them, and that's on tape.
For my girlfriend. Yeah.
It's on tape
I'm
now,
dead
you're in
now.
trouble.
It's true.
Alright, Parks and Recs will be here for a little bit. I don't know if it's Sue or Bob. But I mean, they're pretty much level funded and they left out holidays again, so not much we can do there. Adam's coming in.
No fireworks. I left it out this year.
Well, I mean, we had cut it last year to try to save money. They didn't put it back in because they probably figured, you know, it would be up for the acts again, just because it's something that doesn't really affect services in any way. And it was well, at that time, it was almost $12,000. I mean, if we find that we have some surplus of money, you know, maybe we can put it back in, because I know it was a well-received event that a lot of people in town participated in and enjoyed. But unfortunately, it's, you know, something that has to go by the wayside if we can't afford it. Yes, sir.
Did you just approve the tax collector's budget? What just happened?
No, they came in, anyone with 3 lines or more has to come before us. And we have not voted on any budgets.
Okay,
We're
I'm just,
allowed, we ask them questions and find out how their
how much is the
departments go.
budget for the tax collector?
52,712.
Okay, thank you.
52,712.
32 or 52?
52.
That's level
52.
funded from last year.
Thought you just said 32.
No, 52.
No, he
Okay,
said
52.
52.
Okay, Thank you.
52,712.
okay, thank you.
And the only difference between this budget and last year's budget is the stipend that they get once they pass a certain
Certification, right.
And she hasn't been there long enough to pass it yet.
That's correct. And she had a
So
slight
next year,
increase
that'll go
in
up
salary,
1,000.
which is a contractual thing we have really no control over. We need
That's
the
all
software
controlled
to
by boss.
collect the taxes, so. It's something we really can't say, no, you can't have that. At our last meeting, we had talked a little bit about looking through any old articles that we may have out there that we might be able to suggest for repurposing. You know, I brought up the land acquisition article, which is a rarely old article. Like I explained, it was for, we purchased some land over by Cutter Park, which never took place. And, you know, that's $18,000 that's sitting there. And the other one was, there was another really old library grant match from when they were gonna do a potential addition renovation, probably 15, 20 years ago on the library. But that never came through, and that's about $8,000. So we might be able to suggest repurposing that money for a capital expense that's coming up. We haven't gotten the final report from capital planning yet as to what they voted on to pass forward to the Board of Selectmen. So when that happens, we could write a memo to the Board of Selectmen and suggest those possibilities. Obviously, we'd have to go to the townspeople to vote on, because they are articles. And without their okay, you cannot change their purpose. I did get a memo from the police chief just reiterating what he's told us last week with regard to his expense line, that because of vehicle maintenance and fuel costs, that he may need some additional funds. He's keeping a close eye on it. And unfortunately, you can't predict vehicles when they break down.
So this would be a wrap for this year?
So that potentially could be a rat for this year, unless he can make it till May, then we can put a special article on the town, on the special where the townspeople can vote
Do we know how much we have in our account?
it. We have the whole amount because we have not written any articles yet this year.
Okay.
I would we haven't had to. And I did get a phone call from the town accountant, because she had seen the highway budget and advised me that, which we had already known, that Tom cannot reduce snow and ice, either the expense account or the overtime. That's a state regulation. Once you set that line, you cannot reduce it. You can obviously increase it, but you cannot reduce it, so.
Right, we need to just need to level fund.
Right. And we had also suggested that we level fund that line because we like to keep the expense in the current year. Sorry, I seem to be froggy tonight. She wants to make the announcement. It had come up at the selectmen's meeting with regard to the assessors. They thought they might have an issue with web hosting fees for this current year. They looked at their budget again and are able to cover that expense, so they won't have a problem. It's gonna be very close. They may need an article for bookbinding, which they haven't done yet. But that would be on the spring special, and hopefully they won't need that. But as far as this current fiscal year with the web hosting, they're all set there. They did have monies in their account. So I don't know if anyone has had any thoughts as far as budget changes. Did you see anything or heard anything that might suggest where we could possibly make some changes, if there's reductions or a better way of doing things, or I don't know if you've had any time to think about that.
How many small budgets are not gonna show up? Such as the planning board, town planner, town borough expense?
Well, like our rules state, Kenny, we changed it that anyone with 3 lines or less doesn't have to come before us.
Yeah.
And they've submitted their budgets and with, they are level funded except for step increases, which,
Who did level fund?
well, like planning board, building inspector, they did not level fund, but it's because of, step increases. It's, which is salary. We have no control over that. That's a town policy.
This update you gave us is for all departments.
That's correct.
Can you explain the hydrant situation again, please?
The hydrants, they're rentals, because both water districts are separate companies. They are not part of the town. We rent their equipment, which is the hydrants. That fee was $250 per hydrant. In the memo that the Board of Selectmen forwarded to me, that fee, they want to increase it to $285. That's why at the Selectmen's meeting, when they were gonna talk about it, and asked the question, why is it going up? Pressure testing, a few years ago, they had pressure tested all of the hydrants that were online, and some of them did not meet standards that would allow them to be used for a fire. So what good are they? They had made some upgrades to their system, they had made some repairs to their system, changed out some hydrants, retested them, and last I knew, they all passed. Still some varying degrees of pressure, but they were at least serviceable for it if we had a fire. Since then, I don't know if they've done another hydrant count. I don't get that information, it goes to the selectmen because of the bill comes out of their line. But those are questions they need to ask. When was the last time they were pressure tested? I mean, why should we pay rental on something that we can't use? How many are online now? Has the count changed where they're located? Because we used to have a master list of the locations of every single hydrant for both districts.
And those fees are non-negotiable? We can't approach them and say, is there any chance of a reduction, or?
I honestly don't know, because, I mean, that was set up way before my time. I mean, Kenny may have some history on it, because he's a longtime resident.
Basically, we've been fighting with them for years. And as far as the hydrants being pressurized checks, that should come from the fire department chief. Whether these hydrants are fully capable for use for firefighting. But every year they would increase the number of hydrants they had, and what they wanted is more money every year, as usual. And West Warren had a new system put in, which was separate from the West Warren Water District. That was owned and operated by the West Warren Industries, the industry which was bought out by William E. Wright's company. That was a separate entity in West Warren, so their hydrants were old, and they were from river water. They would pump water to a holding tank up on Marks Mountain, and from there it would come down through when a fire went in, the pump would kick in, the high pressure pump would kick in and supply the water to the hydrants at an even pressure. And to pump the water up there, they use a jockey, what they call the jockey pump. So that system went out when the West Warren got the money from the Turnpike to revamp their water system, and they put in new hydrants. And ever since then, the hydrants is potable water. It's not river water. Previous it was river water. And so they have X number of hydrants, and they have what you probably saw them up by the school where the hydrants were painted black.
Mm-hmm.
And those hydrants were no good. And you used to see one down in West Warren by the Collins garage.
Mm-hmm.
It was painted black. It had a black one here and a yellow one here. And that one was river water and the other one wasn't. So West Warren didn't get as much per hydrant as Warren did.
Yeah.
And about maybe, 7, 8, 9 years ago, maybe less, maybe more, that it was agreed upon that we would pay them X number of dollars per hydrant. Warren would get the number of hydrants that they have online, and we would get, West Warren would get those hydrants on what they have. And through the years, they have increased. And when Warren got money from the block grants that they got to rehab their water system
Right.
through the town here, so they upgraded their system, and by being funded by the feds, they want the town to pick up more costs per hydrant. So, and we've been fighting them for the last 15 years as we've been on, you and I.
So, I mean, it would have to come from the selectmen.
So it's basically up to the Board of Selectmen
I know they have a Board of
to
Water
agree with
Commissioners.
the water districts. But as you say, they are separate entities.
Right. Yes,
I'm not sure what's going on. We're renting the hydrants, is that?
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
And we have no choice, we can't buy them, we have no choice in this?
unless we buy the whole water district,
You'd
which
have to
is a
buy the
whole
water
company,
district.
then no. We don't
Okay,
really have
so I mean, you're at their mercy as far as what, unless it's regulated by the federal government.
They're regulated by the state. They have to abide by the laws of the state of Massachusetts.
And there was a
They can't
big,
do anything that. they
and there was a
want.
big increase over the last year, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
But that's the way it's been set up for years. See, West Warren Water Districts was owned by West Warren Industries, which was probably owned by Mr. Tom McWhorter. He owned the West Warren. His brother owned the West Warren Industries. And he worked for his brother in West
So
Warren.
how much was the total that it went up this year?
That I don't know. They want more money. They've been asking year in and year out, and we kept denying them the extra. We kept bringing it down. So
I mean, what can they,
Eventually,
take the
it's
hydrants
like-
back or start the water up? I mean,
$2,300.
yeah, it's about $2,300.
2,300, okay. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
So they want more money from, and they claim they got more hydrants, so.
Well, and then if we do it for one, we usually do.
But they want an
same for the
increase
other.
per hydrant.
And the total for,
What
per
we
hydrant is
paying in the
2,300,
past.
you're saying? For the
No,
increase?
That's across.
And we try to keep the one.
All of them.
Well, all of Warren.
All of Warren.
Town of West Warren and.
$2,300 increase over last year.
For the town, for Warren
Right.
hydrants, that doesn't include West Warren.
So we
Okay.
give
They're
precinct
separate.
A an increase on the hydrant rental, then we give precinct B.
I mean, is that, is that a huge increase? What is that, what's the, I don't know, what are we paying for all of them?
Last year it was 40,
700, 4,600, $46,000.
46,000, so almost $3,000 increase, that's substantial every year.
Mm-hmm. That's what I thought.
If the town owned the system, they could tie it in with the sewer treatment plant. Whereas
If
the town.
wishes and butts was candy and
they
nuts,
would
we'd all
get
have a Merry
the fees
Christmas.
From the water usage and the sewer usage. But we don't, we're separate entity.
We'd also talked about at our last meeting, possibly doing a presentation. Just looking for ideas as to what you might want to include in that. Do we want to, I mean, I know I'd given out in the past the kind of like the history of state aid and Chapter 70. I'd given out those two spreadsheets. We want to do something with that to show that, you know, our state aid has gone down substantially since 2009. Also with Chapter 70, school aid, also with regional school transportation, how that's gone down significantly. By law, they're supposed to give us 100%. I think it's down to like 40, in the 40s. Hopefully they'll bring it back up a little bit this year, but. So I don't know if you've had any ideas on that.
Are we looking to prior to the meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of just like an informational.
Just a welcome all, come down, informational. I think it would be good. It's better to discuss these things before we reach the town floor and get more information out there to the public so they know how we, look and view these things and why we make the decisions we make. And it's better to inform them. So I do agree with that. I don't know, a week prior, 2 weeks prior, I'm gonna try to, I'm in favor of it. I think it's key to get that out to them.
Me too. I think that the more they know
The
or
better they
work
are.
against, the better they'll understand it. They may not like it any better, but it helps to involve them at an earlier time so they feel like they have more ownership of their vote. When you look at this in a graph like that one that you had with us tonight, you can see from they're up against the same problem we are, because this huge chunk that comes out of their budget that's not even negotiable is like us. So gets it to the people right away. 50% of your budget is non-negotiable, and this is why. Don't just say it's non-negotiable. It's state mandated, this is what we need to do. I think when they hear that it's not some willy-nilly decision, that we feel like we are gonna just throw a whole bunch of money at the school system, they understand better. I think that does goodwill for the town to know what they're up against.
So are we all in favor of that? Trying to
Absolutely.
put something together?
I know Gary's been working on some preliminary stuff, because
Yeah.
that's one of his fortes. He has the software. I don't know, I just thought it was important to show some
I'm just
type of
using
visual.
regular, I use this, I transfer it into InDesign, and I just make it really gorgeous and break it all up and
Very nice.
show people what,
And so she does that too.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I think it.
Keep it simple.
The one thing that I think we also, we may need to discuss further, but there are large expenses impending. Like when the gentleman talked last night about the roof, you could see that pain on his face that he had to even bring up the subject. But we are going to face some large expenditures in the years to come. And I think that, I know it's one thing to rationalize a budget for the next year, but it also needs to be shown what are the other large expenses that are going to hit us in the next 4 or 5 years, so that when somebody comes to the floor, no matter who it is, who wants to put an article on, all of a sudden it's not a shock to the people. Like the town hall is one of those things where they kind of know what's going on now. There's been a lot of reporting about it, but there's been no solution because it's stalemated because of its use. That seems to be the thing which all the committees, the different committees have agreed upon, is that we haven't solidified its use.
Right.
But once that's done, and this engineer can give us a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year plan of what has to happen, then we can present that to the town and say, this is plan A, plan B, plan C. These are the ways that we can see it happening, but you need to tell us what avenue you want to go down.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons that exact thought was why I started capital planning, which Jerry now chairs, is because at these meetings like we're having now, the fire chief would come in, oh, well, I need a fire engine. Well, that's $350,000 you're asking, right now, 6 weeks before we need to make a final booklet and put it out to the townspeople. So that was one of the reasons
Right.
that capital planning came about, and those exact things need to be in that.
I don't think it would be unrealistic if capital planning was involved with that same presentation. That you could show us all of the things that may be coming our way, that we need to, they're serious things. I mean, I was even dumbfounded by the report that Tom gave us about the roads and the money that could potentially he need to repair the roads to be passable.
Right, well, that was, we asked them and have been asking the previous highway surveyors to put together a road plan. So again, we can put it into capital planning, have it into our budget, so each year we can say, for example, okay, we've got $100,000 that we can earmark for capital items. Let's look at it, let's prioritize and put it out there and try to get some of these fixed. When I brought forth back in 06, 05, the structural mechanical inspections of all the town buildings, they put together a 20-year plan. And that's when we did the heating system in here, because this building was electric. We did the heating system, we did the roof on the fire stations. But all those big things needed to be done, because each year we would put them off to the side, and they'd never get done.
Now, is that plan still enforced, like that 20-year plan, is it still rolling?
Well, most of it was front-loaded, and a lot of the big things have gotten done. Like, he had still on their windows for this building. There's still some other things that need to be done.
And was the town hall part of that plan at the time it was?
Yes, it was. Actually, I have it if you want a copy of the CD.
I'd like to see
I
that.
have the CD of it. But each department had got a copy of that. I mean, we did it the senior center, we did the town hall, we did this building, we did the 2 fire stations, and we did the Warren Elementary School, because we own that building.
Mm.
And that's when the roof for there came about, and the heating system came about. And they used that in conjunction with one they did, because it gave them the idea to do Quabog and West Brookfield,
Right.
because they were all needed to be done. Yes, Brian?
So what happened? The town hall was last on the list and it didn't get anything done to it?
It wasn't last on the list, but again, it was in the time when Chief Syriac, who was chief at the time, was planning a new police station. They had planned one for this corner over here and the corner of Maple.
So they just, you're saying they neglected to fix up the historic building because they wanted a new police station?
Well, at the time you couldn't well, I don't remember exactly what happened. That was a long time ago.
Okay, well, that was my question. I was wondering why nothing has been done to that building in so long.
They had done a few of the minor repairs.
They
that
done the
were-
roof, I know it had a new roof, I think, I remember that.
That was back in the 90s.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
And they had done some of the things that were in the report.
They put a new furnace in.
Yep, they put a new
The
furnace in.
bell tower had been repaired
Yep.
once or twice.
But I never saw it, so I don't know what it was like.
What, the furnace?
Yeah, because I was out of office '91.
Well, the old one
And I
was
came
the steam
after the
boiler.
fact of '91 plus.
They took that out.
And it's been going downhill ever since.
Well, maybe you could find the answer to that question, somebody, I don't know. I know, I heard you say the furnace was redone and everything, but I mean, there's asbestos in that building, or there was, that
Well,
should have been removed 50 years ago.
That wasn't very much asbestos.
Doesn't matter,
I spent 12 years in that building, up and down that basement, in and out of it. I ran,
so you're saying they maintain the building properly, is that what you're saying, Ken?
no, we didn't. For the simple fact is the school got most of the money through the years.
Okay, thank you, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Every time,
Yeah.
when they,
So the money went to the school, it didn't go there,
exactly.
thank you,
A lot of it went to the school system.
thank you.
Matter of fact, this should still be a school instead of a Shepherd municipal building. In '79, they should have had it on the backside over the gym and rehabbed the school. And they rehabbed the school, but they cut down on that project because they were short for $100,000. And if you know, back then, the economy was running at a 1.5% increase every month.
Thank you.
We fell by the wayside because back then it was 4% that you could raise your budgets, and then 2.5 came into place thereafter. And that's where we've been ever since. But the school gets priority because we built a new school. We
Well,
have a new school, we built a new elementary school.
Somehow the buildings have to get maintained, otherwise, you know, it gets to the point where it's at now with that building.
All right, I gave you all a copy of, just a summary of Adam's, level funded and what he feels through his experience so far with his fire department, to improve on his department, excuse me. So how is it going so far?
It's going pretty well. The reason why I requested, before I originally found out about the 10% reduction in the level funding, I kind of assumed it would be a level funding. You know, my intention was to ask for a little bit of extra money in a couple of line items that, again, we've discussed before, and they're ones that come up on a regular basis. The ALS account, you know, I just wanted to let the committee know that what we did and the extra money we put in last year has helped tremendously. You know, that's definitely somewhere around in the ballpark of where it needs to be. I have outstanding invoices right now, which after they're paid to this date through February, the line item account will be just under $3,000. It might not be quite enough to get through the rest of the year. It's all dependent on how many calls we have. So that's why that one's always kind of up in the air. But it certainly is a huge improvement from what we have seen before. We're coming back for money constantly, and it's just, so I definitely want to keep it at least at that level, if not maybe a little bit more. I mean, you know, it could get turned in. It all depends on how many calls we have and what we need to do to take care of those calls.
Now, are we still giving mutual aid to West Brookfield?
That's correct. We're not giving that much at all. They've been able to get a truck on the road. Yes, they've been able to. You know, their staff is increasing a little bit. They've got some new EMTs that are in the process of training, and they've been much better about getting the truck on the road. So we haven't been over there in several weeks. So yeah. So like I said, they extended us the courtesy of allowing us to use their second ambulance, and quite honestly, it was also a patient care issue. It wasn't just returning the favor, so to speak. It was also, they had contracts that were pre-existing that were with Brookfield and the other Brookfields, and they were calling, you know, other towns that were 15, 20 minutes away, you know, for response time, when we had full-time people in-house that were 3 minutes away. You know what I mean? So it was a patient care issue as well. So that's another reason why we, you know, I opted to you know, say, yeah, we'll provide that backup for you, and it's worked out fine. Like I said, I mean, we had a very serious car accident in town the other day. They were there. They were actually called first before, because the accident was actually reported at Route 9 and 67. So it was actually reported in their jurisdiction. So they were called first, and thank goodness they were, because you know, it was very severe, and they were able to get an extrication going and whatnot. So it worked out well. And you know, both towns during that time of day, it's tough to get anybody on the road. So you know, so that particular part of it has been very positive actually. So. You know, I just wanted to put the committee on notice about that ALS. It has been a huge improvement. I still may need additional funds. It depends on next month. If it's, you know, we need 10 calls, you know, it's all dependent on how many calls. So, but it's definitely a huge thing. The additional money that was asked for would be in the ambulance line item, or excuse me, the ambulance salaries line item. And basically, I think all the smaller towns in this area are all in the same boat right now. There's a lot of things that are going on that the committee members should be aware of. We have several things out there. The insurance companies are really starting to give the ambulance services a hard time, whether you're private, whether you're municipally funded, you know, municipality. It doesn't matter. They're trying to cut corners as much as they possibly can. They've started trying to find every loophole in the laws, and what that's going to mean for us is less reimbursement. Blue Cross Blue Shield has already started a program. The Fire Chiefs Association is trying to squash that program right now. There's legislation out there and they're already doing it. They're sending checks to patients and not the ambulance. And I'm sure that you can imagine what that's doing to local ambulance services when somebody gets a $1,000 check in the mail. It's not going to the ambulance service. It's going to buy TVs and everything like that. So that's become a huge problem for us. Other insurance companies are holding up our payments for sometimes 90 to 120 to 180 days. If there's car accidents, to determine whether there's alcohol involved, they don't want to pay if they can get off the hook because the person had been drinking or something. So we're seeing all these things coming down the road that they're doing to us. And I've been to a lot of meetings. I was at a meeting last night in New Braintree. There's a program out there called Community Paramedicine. This program basically is going to end up competing with ambulance services, nurse practitioners, and other paramedics and some other doctors and stuff are going to be visiting patients' homes and triaging them, seeing if they need to go to a urgent care clinic instead of an ER. They're trying to all in the idea of trying to save money. So this is kind of what's coming down the road, and there's going to be some seminars on this that I'm sure that the Capital Planning, Finance Committee, and Selectmen need to be involved in to know what's happening to us. And the reason I'm bringing this all up is because all this this is going to add on really becoming a problem for us retaining personnel. All the towns around us, with maybe the exception of Ware, because they're primarily full-time at this point, and Ware is providing huge mutual aid to everybody in the area, and they're really supporting everybody, at least on the ALS level. We're very lucky right now. We have 10 people on staff, that's it. We have 10 EMTs that run that ambulance 24/7, including myself. We take 8-hour shifts. You know, we do our darndest to get that truck out the road, and 99.9% of the time we do without having to call in mutual aid. The only times we usually call in help is when our truck is already tied up on another call. That's very fortunate. A lot of towns, North Brookfield, West Brookfield, everything, they're seeing the exact opposite. They can't get a truck on the road. They're having staffing problems. And after going to that meeting last night and stuff, what I'm looking at down the road is kind of retaining these people that we have. It's not gonna be it's gonna be in the near future where it's not gonna be worth their time with the pay that they're getting and everything to stay on the job. They're required to stay in town. We have no grocery stores. We have none of that stuff to support them. They're staying, they can't even leave their house to do anything. So they're doing 8-hour shifts for $1 an hour on call, which is what the stipend works out to. They get $30 per call. What I'd like to do with some of that additional money, if it's funded, is to give them a little bit more incentive, whether it be in the stipend account, or whether it be $50 instead of $30 on the weekends or something, because that's where we're having the problem, is the weekend shifts. Nobody wants to sign up and take a 3 to 11 on a Saturday or Sunday and not be able to go anywhere with their family or kids or anything else, not be able to go out for dinner or anything, and have to stay in town. And if they don't get any calls, they make $8. It really doesn't make any sense. So, that's something that we're gonna have to look for. And I don't mean to make this sound like these people aren't dedicated, because they truly are. If you look at what they're doing, they are dedicated. They've been doing this for years. But we need to really look at, if we're gonna keep this ambulance service going, I don't wanna end up in what West Brookfield was facing, or North Brookfield at one point. And you see these things in the papers, and that's what I'm trying to avoid in the future. I wanna be able to get this ambulance service funded the way it should be. And we'll keep it lively and keep it going. And so this money would help to do that. And some of the other, what I asked for was in the health and wellness account, which would also help us add people. We got some people that have interest in joining the department, whether it be firefighters, first responders, or EMTs, especially EMTs. We're always looking for people. And having that $4,000 in there, that's not much. It doesn't go very far. It's an average physicals and stuff are $1,000 to $1,200. You're lucky if you put 4 people through, which is just enough money for that. You're lucky if you get 2 of them that come out of the recruit class, because I hate to say it, but the volunteerism has changed quite a bit. It's just not there anymore, and it's because people are working 2 and 3 jobs. They're having a tough time putting food on the table, and they can't volunteer the way they used to do it. At one point when Wrights and the pump shop were in full swing, we had a full-time department. We didn't have to worry about it. But nowadays, it just doesn't happen anymore. We're down a lot of positions right now due to we still have plenty of people to respond, and they're great. They respond all the time. But we've had several members that have been on for many years that have finally decided that they were going to retire. It's just one of those times and one of those points where it happens sometimes. We've had one that just retired after 45 years. We have another that retired after 37 years. They just, physically they can't do it anymore. They just don't have the ability to get out the door anymore. And a lot of these people, they can't do it because they're taking other jobs. And they're moving out of town, and that's the unfortunate part.
So how many do you have in your company right now?
We have 2 companies. Down at Station B in West Warren, there's probably 10 firefighters including officers and firefighters. At Station A, there's probably about 14 to 15 total. There's about 30 people total on the department right now between EMTs and firefighters. They're all very active. We've had some firefighters that have they've been on the department for a few years. They haven't been showing up to many calls and everything like that. I've had to talk to them about it, and they decided to go other ways just because they just couldn't be active anymore, and there were other reasons behind that. So we've kind of cleaned that up a little bit in some aspects. So the people that we have now are pulling a lot of weight. They're the ones that were doing the calls anyways, and they're the ones that are on there. So I'm not really concerned necessarily by being down roster positions. We have 17 roster positions at each station. That was built during a time when Wrights and the pump shop were full, and people were jumping over each other to get on the department at that point. We don't necessarily need 17 roster positions on the department at each station. I mean, I'd love to have them full all the time, but the reality is I know, like many other departments around us, they have 10, 12 people total where they're running. You know, we're still lucky with 30, but you know, the key is keeping those 30. And you know, that's kind of what I'm looking at, especially on the ambulance side. You know, that's, if we're gonna continue to run that truck, and my personal opinion is that, you know, for the price that the town pays, they're getting one heck of a quality service, to be perfectly honest. Yes, we call ALS it when we need them, because we provide that patient care that needs to be given, but the reality is that for a relatively very small cost, or not small, I shouldn't say small cost, but for a relatively modest cost, we provide a very good service that gets that truck out the door and into people's houses. And like I said, most people don't know that we do it with only 10 people, and everybody does hour and hour and hours. So, you know, I know that 2 of the EMTs are leaving in the next couple months for job opportunities, so we're gonna be down 2 more. So, you know, my goal is to fill some slots and to keep the people, you know, at least somewhat content with, you know, at least they can, you know, it makes it worth their while a little bit more, and you know, be able to stay home for an 8-hour shift and not necessarily have to worry about it as much. You know, I'm just trying to find a way one day. I mean, I don't have the perfect answers for it, but it's something that we got to look at and address, because there's other things coming down the road that are only going to cripple us even more. So.
Now, what do other departments do? Just out of
Well,
curiosity.
you know, a lot of them,
Sure you've
a lot of them
researched
deal.
this.
A lot of them. There's several different options out there. You know, I've looked at everything from subscription funds that people do, like towns like Spencer, Rescue Squad, West Brookfield. They do subscriptions. There's a couple problems with that. Number one is that when you run into a problem like they've been having getting a truck out the road, and everybody in this day and age has scanners. A lot of people listen to our calls, and if they start having trouble getting the truck out the door, pretty soon people start saying, what am I paying a subscription for if the ambulance isn't showing up? So they stop paying it, number one. Number two, when a company, when they do have struggles getting out the door, you know, which could happen here or anywhere else, all of a sudden another town comes in. And if you're doing a subscription fee, if Ware comes in and they pick up the patient and their primary transport, because they couldn't get the ambulance on the road, and Ware brings them to the hospital and they send them a $1,000 bill, that person turns around and says, well, wait a minute. I paid a subscription fee in West Brookfield. I live in West Brookfield. I'm only supposed to pay $75 for an ambulance ride. Well, it doesn't work that way. Ware bills because they're going to bill. So that's another reason why people get very upset when they get a bill in the mail, not expecting it, because they paid a subscription fee. So that doesn't work. And then the third reason that I kind of find is tailored to a community like this, you don't really want to start, you know, you don't want to run into the fact where you start doing subscription fees, like the other big thing out there right now is people are saying, okay, we do way too many refusals, which we do too. You know, every community does. We get called a lot for minor car accidents, for domestics, for a lot of different things where we get there and people say, I don't want to go to the hospital, it's fine. You know, we show up, we have to pay our people, and we show up there and they don't want to go to the hospital. Well, a lot of communities are now charging $150, $200 just to get a refusal and turn around. And that's all well and good if you're in a bigger community, but when you know all the people in your community and you send, you know, an elderly woman a $150 bill because she slipped on the floor and fell and is not hurt and just needs help getting picked up, you send her a bill, that's going to resonate around the neighborhood and everything. And pretty soon, you know, they're going to be very upset at a town meeting, and that's going to be a very big black eye for the fire department, and I don't really want to go down that road, because we're here to serve the community, and I don't want to start sending bills to people that we see every day, and it's just not a very nice thing to do to a small community. So that's another reason why, you know, so there's a subscription thing. You know, the other thing that we could do is look at seriously increasing the stipend hours. Go from basically what it is now, it's basically, you know, $15,000 or somewhere in that ballpark, which averages out over time to about $1 an hour. We could, you know, increase that quite a bit, where other towns are in the $3 to $4 range. So you'd have to, you know, substantially put some money into that account. That would be one way to address it, and I think that would help. Or you just look at putting more money in to do per call. You know, that's really the only way. Or you just go flat hourly. I mean, it's going to cost. I guess my message is that the reality is that it costs money to run an ambulance, and it's only going to cost more, and we're going to lose money through insurance companies and stuff. So the town at some point is going to have to make a decision of what they want to do. And The reality is there's a couple options. You either fund your local department and support them, or you get a private company in here and do it, which is gonna cost a fortune because the call volume is not where they're gonna want it. They're gonna wanna start taking transports and everything else out of hospitals, and they're gonna want a $300,000 or $400,000 contract out of the town to do it. And, you know, it's gonna cost a fortune. I still think that the most fiscally responsible way to do this is to fund the local ambulance service. There are people in town, everybody's used to seeing them, they know their faces, they appreciate the service, but, you know, we definitely have to find a way to keep them. We have to do something on that, in that realm, and increase it somewhere. So, I mean, I'm certainly open for suggestions. There's some of those options that I discussed. Could be some other options out there. I mean, the reality is we don't, out of the $150,000 roughly that we collect a year, we don't see a dime of that. You know, maybe it's time to look at starting to put some of that money back into the ambulance service, you know.
Well, I was coming, we had been talking about the town of Barry, just because we're statistically similar to them.
We're about as close to them, more than any other town. We're very similar to Barry.
But I was reading, well, I'll give this to you, but their town article for their ambulance. To fund their ambulance service, it's to transfer, their total was $436,000 from ambulance receipts to pay for the ambulance.
It's a very expensive game.
How many ambulances do they have?
Barry, I think they may have only one. If
They're
they may
getting
have two.
$450,000.
Like I said, half the problem that we have right now is that, and this is very clear, and I brought this up at the meeting last night, is we have a huge lack of education out there. Most people, they don't care. As long as they see a box with a name on it show up at their house, they're pretty much content. They have no idea what the difference is between ALS and BLS. They have no idea how EMTs are trained or how many hours they have to put in. They have no idea what state protocols are. They have no idea what the insurance companies are doing to us. They're very uneducated when it comes to that. It's not their fault. It's because it's not promoted enough. And I'm hoping that some of these programs, like the meeting I went to last night, there's a CMRPC, which is Central Mass Regional Planning Committee, is putting a study together right now, and they're doing this exact thing. And the meeting I went to, it didn't involve Warren directly, but I went there as an educational experience because it involved a couple of the Brookfield towns, Oakham, Hardwick, a couple different places. What they're looking is doing regional ALS, which would mean that they're looking at options of putting in what they call fly cars. They're SUVs with a paramedic in them that they can intercept as opposed to calling a town over.
Yeah.
They're looking at different options. What would be the most responsible way to address this problem? Because we're all in the same boat. I mean, other than maybe Ware, that's full time, but they're looking at laying off people. So I mean, it's just everybody is losing money here. And unfortunately there's no money to be, the only department in the town really that makes any money is the ambulance. Everyone else costs money. The ambulance brings in a little bit of money, but it's a 911 service. We have no choice of who we can take. You can't turn down anybody. So by state regulations, we have to take anybody that calls 911. Doesn't matter where they call, we can take the same patient 50 times in 3 months and not get paid one time for it. But we have to pay the EMTs every time they go out the door. So that's half the problems that we're running into is what they call this bad debt. It's the people that may have drug addictions and substance abuse problems and stuff, and they're sure as heck, or they could just be real down on their luck, and they're going to put food on the table for their kids before they pay an ambulance bill. It's just the reality, and so we're writing off a lot of this stuff, and we don't have that choice. We don't do transports. We're strictly 911, so we don't have the ability for a doctor to sign a medical necessity form saying, yeah, you can take them to this whatever hospital and we'll definitely pay you. It doesn't work that way. We get called for, yeah, and you've seen what happened in the papers with North Brookfield. They've downsized to a van ambulance. They have only one ambulance now. They're not ALS anymore. It's just the reality of what's happening around us. So I'm just trying to address that and let the committee know what's going on. So they're not blindsided coming down the road and think it's a managerial problem when people walk out the door, because it's not. It's a national problem. It's a state and local problem too. And this is what's happening across the country. And the healthcare system is a little bit broken when it comes to EMS because it's a real tough game. Especially you got with the whole healthcare system right now and everything and all the changes that are going on there with You know, yeah, Obamacare, I mean, these are things that are going to keep coming up, and they're only gonna get more concerning. And it's gonna be very tough for these small municipalities to continue to fund, you know, to keep these ambulances rolling. They're gonna have to make some very serious decisions as to what levels they wanna run at, how much they wanna run at, and, you know, what they wanna do, unless they go to a regional level, you know, and that's just the reality.
Well, let us know when that meeting is, if you,
Yeah, I will. What they've decided to do is because, you know, a couple of us brought up the fact that there is a lack of education out there. They really need to start with selectmen and finance committees and capital planning committees and everything, and get everyone understanding what the problems are, you know, and get everyone together and, you know, especially the select boards and stuff, the people that can make the decisions and call the, you know, the state reps and everything like that to get them to get on these bills and everything. And they're being pushed at the local and state level, but the more push, the better.
do you have any bill numbers that are affecting?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of them. I can tell you that the ones that are out there right now are the serious ones of the Blue Cross Blue Shield fight. Right now, basically, they've tried to appease the fire chiefs because they've been getting a lot of political heat from the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts. And what they've basically done now is to kind of quiet that storm. They basically said, okay, if you're a municipally funded program, we will pay you we will send the check to you. If you're a private ambulance service, no, it still goes to the patient. That means West Brookfield, even though they're 911. Their subscription, their private rescue squad, Hardwick, Palmer, you know, and that's the other problem is most people, that's the whole other thing, that people don't understand that they're private. You know, they just see West Brookfield Rescue on the side of it. They see Palmer Ambulance on the side of it. They have no idea what the difference between municipal and private is. And I mean, they're for profit private. You know what I mean? They're gonna take transfers before, they don't wanna do 911. There's no money in 911s. They wanna do as many transfers as they possibly can, because it's a guaranteed payment, because the doctor signed a medical necessity form saying this person has to go by ambulance. Nobody does that for 911. I mean, you could have someone from a toothache to somebody with a leg that's off. You know what I mean? You just never know, and you just never know if you're gonna get paid. It's just one of those things. So, you know, so there's that lack of education too.
And our company that we're using now is doing better for us still?
Yes, we haven't had any real issues with Comstar. The biggest problem we've had with them, I would say, or the biggest headache that we've had with them is that all the insurance companies are switching to electronic fund transfers. And, you know, I know Bill, you know, doesn't necessarily like that. He likes to get checks in the mail, and that's not a knock on him at all. It's just the way he's used to doing it.
Yeah.
And it just adds a little bit more of a task for myself. And I pretty much serve as a middleman between the Comstar, our billing company, and him, his office. And I basically just, every day, I fax out ambulance reports and patient face sheets, make sure they get them on time. We have to, there's so much that goes into it that, again, that people don't know. We have to do quality control on all of the calls. I have a firefighter assigned to that. They have to read every call. They have to make sure that the times are correct. They have to make sure that the protocols were done properly. They have to make sure the OEMS standards were done properly. There's so many things they have to do before they can even send it to the billing company for their part. You know, so all of that stuff has to be done in-house, and that's why, you know, cutting us positions and stuff is just ridiculous, because we can, you know, everybody's assigned to their little niche right now where they can, you know, get the job done. And so all that stuff has to be done. But Comstar itself, they've been great, except, you know, and it's not their fault, because this is what's happening nationally. Every insurance company used to be just the big ones switched to electronic fund transfers, but now even the small ones are doing it because it's saving them money. And now we have to physically track every call, and I highlight it and send it up to Bill, and he's got to go down his list and see when it was deposited and everything. It used to be just he'd get a handful of checks, and he'd go once a week or so to the bank, and he knew it was right there in front of him. Now they're happening all the time, you know, and he never knows when they're coming and going, so he has to physically track every one of them. So it's just more of a, you know, is it working? Yeah. Is it, you know, is it a little bit more of an inconvenience? Yeah, but, you know, it's something we can work with.
Yes, Brian.
Why are the insurance companies sending the payment to the patient? Is that part of the Obamacare?
Because legally they figured out that they could. It's not part of the Obamacare system. It's legally they figured out that it was cheaper for them, and it makes them look better to send it to the patients, and they started doing that, and they just didn't realize the effect. I mean, they probably did, but they don't care. You know, I mean, they don't care if the ambulance services don't get paid. But like I said, the problem is, you get a check in the mail for $1,000 written out to your name.
Absolutely. So,
What are you
so
gonna
they
do
can
with
save money.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean.
Why, is that
again,
because the municipalities just pay? charging more, or what happened to
No,
save money?
basically what happens now is that we're under what's called a bundled rate, and Comstar recommended this because this is what most people are going to. It's not a it's basically what the average is across the country is what they're suggesting, because sometimes, you know, if you're too high, insurances can reject it. If you're too low, you know, then you're really damaging yourself. And the majority of patients that we get, a lot of them, you know, we're a lower income community, not as an affluent community. A lot of people we take are on Medicare and Medicaid. We're only, the very most they pay is $300, basically just over $300. That's all you're gonna get. So that bill of normally of $800 to $1,000 that we would send, you're only gonna get $300 of that. That's the minimum. And if you're taking mostly Medicare and Medicaid patients, that's a problem. You know, so that's, again, where that funding issue goes. So I don't know what those answers are. I'm just suggesting a few of them that are on the top of my head, and, you know, maybe turning around and taking some of that, you know, a percentage of that $150,000 that we collect and putting it back in towards it, or at least planning it for replacing ambulances, or you know, putting it into a stipend or something like that is the way to go. But, you know, I just want to put the committee on notice that, you know, that something has to be done to retain these people. And they deserve it. I mean, they're doing so many hours. I mean, it is, we get burned out, and, you know, they're seeing, I don't care whether it's a small town or a city, you're seeing the same types of calls. You may not see them on the same regularity, but you're seeing the same types of calls. You're seeing, you know, deceased people, you're seeing bad car accidents, you're seeing cardiac arrests, you're seeing kids and stuff hurt. And you lose people from time to time for that. They get burned out. They don't, you know, it just happens. You know, it's, you know, the reality is, you never know what you're walking out to. And you could have I've seen EMTs that have done 3 calls, and the 3rd call happened to be a fatality on the Mass Pike, and they never come back. And, you know, that's the reality. And you know, so, you know, they deserve something for it. You know, it's tough.
So, well, how competitive are we with our neighbors regarding those salaries?
I would say that we're a little under with regard, if we're going to stick with a stipend, we're under. You know, most of them are in the $3 range, $4 range an hour to make it worth their while, so they get something at the end of the month that's, you know, bigger than $100 for all the hours they do. You know, that's probably about the average for that. The call wise, most of the places are between $30 and $50 per call. You know, but they may have a lower stipend. You know, it all depends on what it is. And like I said, whether the finance committee wants to put it into a stipend and think about it that way, so they're guaranteed a certain amount because it's hourly, as opposed to having to wait for calls to come in and get paid that way. You know, either way, you know, it's not necessarily. I just want to make sure something gets corrected.
I forget, do they do either or is it both?
It's both. They basically get it's $1,450 a month is allotted for the stipend per month. That is put into an Excel program. I track everybody's hours every month. Every day I enter their hours after the day has gone by. I put their hours in, and it automatically calculates. At the end, I give it to payroll at the end once a month after I allow about 30 days to go through. It usually averages out to just under $1 an hour once it's all said and done. So I mean, if the committee were to fund more money in there, certainly, you know, that's a guaranteed. You know, if that was added there, that's guaranteed that they'd be making $3, $4 an hour, and that would be greatly appreciated, I'm sure. You know, my only fear about putting more money in on the weekends is, yes, people will sign up for them more, but do they want to do, you know, other shifts? You know, I'm just trying to figure out a way that it keeps them, you know, satisfied. It keeps them, you know, at least allows them to make a little bit for what they're doing.
And then they get X amount if there's a call.
Correct, yes. Right now, they get the stipend and hourly, again, which works out to about $1 an hour, and they get $30 per call for the EMTs. The first responders, we have 3 first responders on there. They're not as trained as high level. They're not certified as EMTs, but they're necessary because they run as the 3rd, and, you know, they help to lift, they carry all the equipment, they drive, they do all of that stuff, which, you know, is fantastic because EMTs are left to do what they need to do in the back, and they get $20 an hour for that.
Call.
$20 per call, excuse me. Yes, $20 per call.
You were saying we may lose 2 people?
We are going to lose 2 EMTs. I have an EMT that's leaving in May, and I have one that's going to be leaving in June.
What's the average cost to retrain, rehire, replace?
If we were to have someone come in that's already trained, we'd have to put them through a physical, which is about $1,000 per person. What we've been doing is that if someone comes in and they pay for their EMT, the department doesn't pay for it. If they fund their EMT and they give us 6 months worth of service, we will reimburse them for their EMT class, which is roughly Normally, the normal class is anywhere from about 800 to 1,200, depending on where you go, what facility and whatever they're charging. That's the other issue right now is that it used to be the hospitals and the fire departments used to put the EMT classes on because the hospitals and fire departments were the ones that are hiring them, and everyone did it to get on the fire department. Nowadays, it doesn't work that way. The private entities have taken over, and they're there to make money. So the prices of classes are going up, and they don't really care if they pass or not. They're just there to cash their check, and that's about it. So, so it costs about 800 to 1,200 for a class, and we'll reimburse them after 6 months of service, and it's about $1,000 for a physical for one person. So right now, the most I can put on is 4 people. You know, in reality, with that budget line item the way it is, I already have 6 applications between firefighters and EMTs that want to get on the future, so I'm already over that. And we'll be able to.
And that's for health and wellness, eh?
That's for health and wellness, correct. So I'm looking to put more people in. I'd like to advertise and start filling some of the positions, and people that are retired and start to, not only on the ambulance side but on the fire side too. It's tough to retain. It's very tough to retain anybody nowadays, but we need some new people.
I also don't want to be a training ground though either.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Well, the problem is that communities are seeing that. They're facing that. It's just another reality is that a lot of these places that are civil service departments like Ware and stuff, they've challenged those things in court. They said, okay, fine, we'll pay for your paramedic. We'll upgrade you to this. You have to give us three years of service. You have to give us a year of service. And they found out legally they can't do that. I mean, basically, we're being nice in doing that, but if we were to take someone to court, it's going to cost the town a lot more money to take someone to court than it is to pay for their $1,000 EMT class.
Yes, Brian.
The amount of staff that you need right now, is that what's efficient for you? I mean, can that be?
Ideally, obviously I'm gonna always want more staff, but ideally we could really use one more full-time employee. I mean, we had 5 full-time employees. We had 5 at one time. We are down a position, we're still down a position.
Now, can people that are there working at their maximum hours, can they work more? You know what I'm saying?
Again, it all depends. I have some call EMTs that do 200 hours a month. I have some call EMTs that do 70 hours a month. It all depends on their full-time work schedule, and I basically take whatever I can get from them because some of them can't. They have kids, they have childcare issues and stuff, so some of them have a much freer schedule. They might be single, they may not have any kids. They're able to do a lot more. So really, it's one of those things where I can't mandate, or I haven't yet, I should say, mandated that you have to do this many hours because, again, that pushes people away. It's at that point now where I try to,
I mean, there may be some that want to work more, is all I'm saying.
Oh, no. The ones that are working the most, that's the most they can work. They can't work any more than they already do because they already have full-time jobs. They're at their limit. I have 2 EMTs that do 4 out of the 5 weeknights every night except for 1. They do every overnight. I'm doing several overnights myself. And it's not a complaint. I don't get a dime more for any calls that I go on. I'm contract. I don't make any. It's not an issue, but I'm just saying we all pull the weight. Everybody chips in. Everybody works on it. Whether you're making money or not, it doesn't matter. We all take our turns. And that's the way it is. I'm on call tonight at 11 o'clock. I do the overnights Thursday night. So whatever comes in, comes in. And that's just the way we handle it. So. But again, there's only 10 of us, so that's it.
So how's our ambulance holding up?
Our ambulance is doing well. I'm optimistic that it can be replaced. I really hope so. There's been other smaller problems with it. I've had to have brakes done on it recently. I've had another air conditioning problem with it. Little things here and there. It's just wear and tear. It's at this point, it's starting to show its age by
I'm
far.
sure these roads aren't helping it.
Oh, it's awful. I've had more vehicle problems lately than I care to say. I mean, between fire trucks, little things, electrical problems and stuff. When it happens, when it rains and pours, it seems like all I've been doing is fixing it.
Those houses on Bridge Street with the driveways like this, are you even able to get up those?
It's in certain conditions, probably not. It's all up to people to maintain their driveways.
I'm just saying, you probably bought them out, you know what
Oh,
I'm saying?
there's some roads, School Street, Prospect Street. There's some roads that we don't bother to go up because we can't.
Exactly.
We'll get our stuff stuck. They know to come around the other way. And that's one nice thing about having a smaller community is that you get to know those little things that you have to deal with, but where the hydrants are, where they aren't, and where the little.
Speaking of hydrants, we were just having this discussion earlier. When was the last time you pressure tested those? just asking for a huge increase in their lease?
To be perfectly honest, I can't answer that question. I have no idea.
Okay.
I will say this.
Pretty sure it's before your time.
I have never had a battle with either one of the water superintendents, whether Warren or West Warren. I don't want it to make it sound like we have any kind of, negative opinion of each other. That's not the case whatsoever. They've given me what I've asked them for, but it's a private water system. We have nothing to do with it, both of them, and they're up to their own devices. It's kind of weird how they operate. There's certain, like Trudeau Drive, for example, they're on the municipal water system. They're not maintained by the water department because it's a private road. So you have hydrants up there that are municipal water supply, and they don't check them. So nobody checks them. You know what I mean? So unless the superintendent, I should say the gentleman that is the super up there does check them, and I believe he can request that the water department come up there. But it's kind of funny how that works. So to answer that, the short answer is that I do not know the last time they're pressure tested. I do have some lists of what they're supposed to have coming out of them, but and I know a decent amount about the system itself with regard to what they can do and what they can't do. They can move a lot of water if they have to. If we had an incident in West Warren, they can send millions of gallons from Warren into the West Warren lines. They do have those capabilities and whatnot, but we do not maintain them at all.
No.
Most people assume what we do.
I mean, no. Probably, I'll say 10 years ago now, 8 years ago, we ran into an issue of, they wanted to increase the lease amount, the per unit lease amount. And we asked for them to pressure test them with Chief Dolan at the time. And a lot of them came back that they didn't function properly. They weren't serviceable to what you would need to put out a fire.
Yeah, and I probably, there's some out there that may be the case. It all depends on where in town it is. It all depends on where the water line is and how big the water line is. I mean, there's some areas that I have no idea what they were doing when they were designing them. I mean, you go to the end of South Street and you go up to the elementary school, you're not gonna get any water out at all out of those hydrants up at the elementary school. That's a tanker shuttle situation that we have to deal with, a water supply situation. You would think that they would have put
Well,
it
see,
in the
these are
line.
things we kind of want to know or pass on to the selectmen, because, I mean, they're charging us, at this point in time, $250 per hydrant as a rent. If we can't use that hydrant, then why are we paying rent on it?
Well, that's something certainly that can be looked at. I can't give you those definite, for some reason, it seems like there's a little bit of a disconnect as to getting that information forthcoming. A little bit, it can be a challenge. They've been good with us, but, I don't know. To answer that question, there's no real direct communication on a regular basis between the water departments and us, unless it's asked for.
You know of hydrants that aren't working.
Not working, not working. Ones that are inadequate for fire suppression, I would say it that way. But that's.
And some that are maintained.
And some that aren't maintained by the water department, they're on private property, yes.
So you're saying the houses up by the elementary school don't have enough water pressure if there's a fire there?
Correct. Adequate water pressure to combat the fire, that's correct, yes.
And from the school, how big of an area would you just say?
Well, basically, there's a 12-inch line that runs all the way up from 67 to about, it's a 10-inch line, I think. No?
It's a 6-inch.
I thought the 6-inch, I believe, starts after Santos Road, the intersection.
Oh, to the school is a 6-inch.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Size.
There's a 6-inch from Santos Road, from the Route 67 up into the intersection of Santos Road. I believe it's a 10 or 12-inch line, and then it caps to a 6-inch.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Could you just give me an idea of how many houses? There's houses right out on South Street there, right where you enter into the elementary school.
Mhm.
How many houses are we talking there don't have enough water if the house is on fire?
The last hydrant that is of use to us, that we get enough pressure to be able to adequately pump, out of, I would say is probably somewhere right near your house. I would say right in that area.
So all them houses past him?
I mean, we can use them, we could fill up a truck if we had to, but it's gonna fill it slowly. It's gonna fill up a tanker, but it's gonna be slow. So what we've already devised plans to either take a hydrant down by the intersection of Santos and Crouch, take that hydrant, that's a good hydrant. We also have the swamp up there. We can draft water right out of the swamp, right around the corner from the school. So we lay line into the school. We've already pre-planned those events, you know, so to speak. There's also a 10,000 gallon, 15,000 gallon tank up at the school that's under the ground for their system that we can get into if we have to. They have a sprinkler system, so that's good. I mean, chances are that anything that goes on up there is hopefully gonna be handled by the sprinkler system, and that's why it was designed that way. But the hydrants themselves are not sufficient for firefighting, no.
So you're saying that if one of them houses is on fire right out on South Street, right outside the school, where the entrance to the school, them houses past him, if the house is on fire, you'd have to fill up a truck and then go put the fire out?
Yes.
That's nice to know.
Well, we'll work with
But
the
it's-
selectmen.
yeah, it's no
and
different.
See what we can do,
Yeah.
because, I mean, if they're looking for this rate increase, being tenants, so to speak, of the hydrants,
Yeah.
they need to be serviceable, so.
The reason for those flat lines there, the line is just like this. That's how much volume they can get through those lines.
Yeah, that, like I
Going
said,
up to the school.
it changes, I knew, there's a main line that comes down to about that Santos Road area, and then you're correct, after that
No, it comes
Santos
down
Road area,
Crouch Road.
it comes down, yeah, and it comes down and it reduces to a much smaller pipe.
It comes down Crouch Road. At the corner of South Street, Crouch Road, and Santos Road, they got a big valve in there to cut the pressure down, because it's gravity fed. Where that tank is located on Highland Street, that's higher than Highland Street, so the pressure is much higher than it should be.
Yep.
So they have to reduce the water going down South Street, and the water that goes up South Street goes up, back up to the school.
Yep.
What other areas in town are like that? I'm not trying to. make this
There's
go
only
on.
about, I would say only about 50% of the town is actually in hydrant district, is in water district.
So the other 50%?
The other 50% aren't, and that requires us to get a water supply. Whether it's drafting out of a pond or a pool or whatever it is, or by doing a tanker shuttle and filling in a hydrant.
Out of the 50% that's hydrants,
Dry hydrants and stuff.
what is, out of the 50% that's hydrant fed, where is the weak, there's a weak spot on South Street, you said, are there any other ones in town?
To my knowledge, that's probably the worst area right there. Most of the other stuff is pretty good, for the most part. There's a couple of them that, we actually went around, and the fire department actually got permission to go around and we checked the hydrants ourselves and we maintained them. A couple of years ago, we went and we put, you know, the never sees and stuff around the caps and everything, and that's something we were looking to do again. Again, it's not our responsibility to do that, but that's something we did on our own to be proactive and make sure we use the hydrants. You know, so we did do that at one point, and we tested them ourselves to, you know, to get an idea of what the flow rate was out of there. So, you know, there's a couple of hydrants, like up by the water tank on the intersection of Crouch and Reed Street. Like if that hydrant right there is not that great because it's sitting at the same level as the tank. So it feeds downhill, so, you know.
That's gravity fed.
Yeah, so it's a gravity fed system. So there's a couple of unique ones out there, but,
Well, it's good that you know that.
well, you gotta have to know.
Yes.
I just have one question, if I could just ask them. Sure. Thank you. I was just curious, we're not ALS currently at this point in time, just BLS?
Correct.
Would it be a profitable idea of like doing like an ALS fly car with a paramedic, like some type of SUV, similar
Well,
to like Fox VDMS has a SUV with a paramedic, and those are separate people that don't do ambulance calls, but they are a paramedic, and they would obviously be able to bill, you know, higher rates for having a paramedic service to go to a call or something. Is that
Well, that's,
something that could be profitable, you know, to bring in extra money revenue?
I don't think for a small community, I don't think we should ever look at being profitable. And what I mean by that is that in order to pay for the supplies that would cost, in order to get the truck out the door, we're never gonna make money here, and that's not the intent, it's
Right,
just
yeah,
to
I
run the ambulance. The idea you're talking about is what's being thought about in the regional side of things, where they are gonna put, you know, a fly car, they're looking at one option of putting fly cars out there for community areas such as ours, with local towns where they could go back and forth and respond. We couldn't do that in-house, like just hire one paramedic and send them out there. We can't do that. If we're gonna do that, we need to upgrade our entire system back up to ALS. And to do that is gonna require a substantial
If we
funding.
needed
You're gonna have
four or
to,
six
I would say,
paramedics.
because we gave up our ALS license at one point, the
Yes.
state is gonna say you need to provide it on a 24/7 basis. They're gonna say that all full-time people need to be paramedics, which would mean it costs from, anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 to send each one of us to school to upgrade, or you're gonna have to pay paramedics to come in and sit, and it's gonna be extremely expensive, and then you have to buy all the equipment and everything like that, so.
On the pay
If,
scale.
that's another thing that the
Right.
town could look at, but the reality is that that would be the most expensive way to go.
Probably
I
be
just didn't-
twice of
Oh,
what we
okay.
have.
I was just thinking,
Yeah, no, we
'cause I know-
did have the paramedic service.
We
and-
did.
And we did do well with it, it's just, in order to keep the license, we had like a temporary or a test
Yeah.
license. To keep it on a permanent basis, we would have need to hire another 2
And-
or
and the
4
reality was is that-
paramedics. So at the cost of their salary,
And the reality is
And
that
the training
Nancy, when she was here and working, Nancy and Buzz, they did a tremendous job, and
Yes,
they
they
ran
did.
the calls all the time, and I give them all the credit in the world, but Nancy's salary was nowhere near comparable to what she should have been making as a paramedic.
No,
Nowhere near it.
paramedics-
So, in
paramedics.
order to get someone in here hired at that level, it's gonna be a
Right.
huge increase.
yeah, you can probably double the cost of what we have.
well, I was just mentioning, because I know, like, for example, like, if a BLS ambulance comes to my house, they bill you a certain amount, but if you get an ALS, like, for example, I was having chest pains back 10 years ago, Milford Hospital paramedics at the time, and they charged like $900 and something
That's
just for them to show up.
That's
I mean,
basically
that's
what-
how they made their
what-
money,
Right.
which was separate from the
And
original.
that's only if the
but-
insurance company pays us.
Right, correct, yeah.
And
So
that
ours
works
was
well
kinda
for
different.
places that are busier, like Springfield area, they can do that, they have fly cars all over the place, but when you're talking about rural communities and you get it where we are in the Berkshires, even more than us, that system has to really be looked at, because you need to have them with an adequate response time. I mean, if someone's in cardiac arrest or having chest pain or anything like that, a 15-minute response time, they have no chance in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality, and it's just not gonna work.
And how's all our big trucks holding up?
We're doing okay, and we've had some little problems here. I had to put an alternator in one of the trucks the other day. That was a little bit expensive, but could have been worse. Could have been on one of our other trucks, the newest one, which would have been thousands and thousands of dollars. But the newest truck has had some electrical issues. We're working through that, and it always has as soon as it came off the line. A lot of it's under warranty, so it's been getting shoveled back and forth to Foxborough, and I've been trying to do the best I can with it. Taking care of the little stuff as it comes in, and we're doing okay. I applied for a grant, hoping to get good news on it. Engine 5 is one of the ones, the replacement for a little truck in West Warren. That was one that I've had. It's been on capital planning for quite a while now. I had a grant put through about 3-4 months ago. I got some relatively decent good news the other day that project is looking to be seriously funded by the Assistance to Firefighters grant, so we may end up getting a truck replacement out of it. I don't know yet,
Excellent.
so hopefully we'll get some good news. It's made the peer review in the subcommittee, so at this point it looks like it has a good chance of getting funded. So that may be the last truck that we need to replace, and it might be funded off of a grant. So
That'd be
praying
excellent.
that will go through. So
Well, we'll keep our
we're
fingers
doing
crossed for
we're
you.
doing our best on grants, and they're drying up, but we're applying and seeing what we can get out of them. So we have got a couple of small grants. I just got a safe grant for the kids. I just got approved for that. So we got the money for the schools again. Got a couple small grants. We got a gas meter off of several gas meters, I should say, smaller ones, carbon monoxide meters. Some equipment, some pumps, and some pumps we can loan out to people if their basements flood, that kind of stuff, to replace some of the equipment we had. So we're doing okay. We're doing all right.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions for Ed?
Yeah, if you have to write a grant for a truck, do you write it yourself? or do
No,
you
I
have-
provide all of the information, all the numbers and statistics and all of the paperwork that goes with it, but the major grants, if they're smaller grants, I'll write them myself, like the safe grants and stuff like that, that's fine, I'll do the narratives and everything like that. But for the assistance to firefighter grants, it's so competitive out there, I outsource them and Jim did the same thing, to a grant writing company that for a very small, relatively very, very modest, a very, small fee, they did a great job with that. So we provide all the backbone and the statistics and everything like that, which is, a decent amount of work, but they have to do the narrative, because they know the bullet points as to what the grant people are looking for.
And that's their specialty.
That's their specialty. And that's another thing I really can't stress enough that the town really needs to look at, is having somebody that is assigned to grants, because there are a lot of them out there, they're very tough to find sometimes, and there needs to be somebody that is on top of that grant writing for everybody, you know.
Maybe we can put that as a school project.
You know, because
Have
that,
that
it's
as a
just,
class.
it's so
Most kids know how to
overwhelming,
use the
you know,
internet way better than we do.
for,
That's me.
I'm sure I could speak for Bruce and Tom, you know, there's so much other stuff that need to be done with the job, it's just way too
Yeah.
time consuming to start grants and stuff, it's just so overwhelming, you know,
Yeah, no,
that
you guys
it's
keep
so
up with your
competitive.
regular ones and.
Yeah, so I mean, the little ones and stuff are fine to pick away at, but when it comes to major funding, you were talking about buildings and stuff like that, that needs to be done professionally by somebody that has gone to school for that, and, I mean, because it's just so competitive.
Well, yeah, and you need to know the hot buzzwords of the current fiscal year.
What is the fee when you're outsourcing?
I believe they charge for each grant, I believe it's $400, which really isn't bad if you end up getting a $150,000 truck out of it, so, you know.
You seem like you've acclimated really well.
No, I'm enjoying the job, I really am. You know, we got a great morale going right now. Like I said, we're down some people, but, you know, that's just due to natural, you know, what happens. People just get tired, they have job requirements and everything. So the people the people that we have right now, that's where the work has been coming from all along. And, you know, they're happy, everybody's getting along, they're you know, that, you know, years and years of Warren versus West Warren thing is gone, and, you know, really tried to squash that. And, you know, everybody is really pulling their weight. We've had some changes in command. I moved some people around with regard to officers' positions, and that seems to have worked out well. You know, so we're doing okay. You know, I can't complain. Got a good group of people, and you know, they're doing their jobs, and they're doing really well. So take a lot of headache away from me.
And your staff supports you?
Yeah.
A few that I spoke to.
Yeah, they you know, they've been
What
great. Everybody, I'll tell you what, the first year and a half, it's already been a year and a half and almost, and you know, it's been a great learning experience. You know, it's, you know, kind of a dive in both feet type of a deal, but you know, you just kind of get used to it and do as much as you can. And you know, I've been taking a lot of classes and stuff just for, you know, different things and just to learn a little bit more here and there. But you know, for the most part, yeah, the people in the department have been very supportive, and the community's been very supportive. And you know, we've come out of the town meetings, you know, I mean, I've seen some of those things that have happened to other departments and stuff, and I think we're very lucky. We seem to be very well supported by, you know, even by some people that, you know, may have grudges or problems with other things. They seem pretty good about the fire department. So right now, you know, I thank them for that. We're pretty well supported by the community at this point, which is I'm very thankful for. But you know, a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you know, we're kind of a unique department in the sense that 90% of our people live in town. Their town, you know, that's kind of unique. You know, it's different than the other departments. They're volunteers, a lot of them, so people kind of look at that differently. You know, they know them on the street. You know, most of the full-time people now live in town. You know, that's been a big change. Before, our full-time people, including myself, when I first joined, didn't live in town. Now 90% of us do. So that's changed a lot of that. You know, that means a lot to people. You know, it means a lot to people that they're invested in, you know, they live in town and whatnot. And so that's, you know, and like I said, you know, we're always doing things for, you know, spaghetti dinners and chicken barbecues, and we're in the schools and stuff. The other departments don't get that opportunity nearly as much. So naturally, I think we're looked on with a little bit more of a community-oriented light, and that helps. You know, that helps.
Yes, it does.
You get a lot of use out of Jim out there?
Yeah, he stops by to say hi and stuff. You know, he comes in once a week or so to pop in and everything. You know, he misses the people. You know what I mean? I don't think he misses some of the headaches, but he misses the people. So he stops in to bust on me every once in a while. You know.
Well, he's teaching now. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, he's
He
a
has-
professor
he
now.
has-
He's a
he has
professor.
to
So,
look studious.
yeah, exactly.
Anybody else? Questions for Adam? No? Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much. And any assistance is greatly appreciated. Believe me. And like I said, I'm just trying to throw out some red flags and things that are coming down the road. So,
Well, ALS, I mean, we always have had a struggle with that. We've got it up to a point where we don't have as many rats. But you can't call when people are gonna get sick or in an accident.
exactly.
And unfortunately, the human factor is what greatly affects that line.
Yep, and that's just on, you know, I think we're, again, with both of the changes in the billing, because we did the same thing with billing. I moved some money around when we first got on, and that has helped a lot. We're on target with billing, we're pretty much on target with ALS, we're on target with most of the line items at this point. So, I mean, that's a good start, you know, I mean, and that, you know, I'm sure that, much as you'd love to see my smiling face, it's not for reps and stuff, so. You know, I prefer not to come back for those, you know, because we all know how those are viewed.
And that beery thing is not to, you know, make you change the way you do things. I was just curious how they can do that. Because that's, I mean, I know how much you bring in and how much we write off, and for them to come up with $450,000 for a town the same size as us, it just amazed me.
I have to look at their structure and see what
Yeah.
it is. I mean,
So
they
that's
may
what
have some, you know, they may have a combination of a bunch of different things going on.
Yeah.
You know, we're, like I said, you know, I don't wanna give the impression of doom and gloom. That's
No,
not,
no.
was not my intent. You know, we're doing very well for a small service for right now. It's just that I just know that that can change very quickly if we lose 3 or 4 people all within a span of 6 months. You know, then that's what I'm just trying to, you know, we're doing well. Our truck is getting out the door 99 times out of 100, you know, where the people are responding, and even when there's only one EMT on and someone else didn't sign up for the shift, if they call out for one EMT, somebody always shows up, whether it's myself or somebody else, somebody signs on and somebody goes to get the truck out, you know, so, you know, from that aspect, you know, the townspeople are served very well that way, so.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Take care.
Yes, oh, is that for, no, Gus told me I didn't have to be there, he told me not to go.
Okay.
Yeah, because Jim asked me that too, but he told me not to go because he said it was just routine stuff. I already been in to see you guys. Okay?
It's like last week, she's freezing us out.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Johnson Controls or something. Fix them. I think it was at 16, but like I think it was here.
Well, watch the air conditioner.
What?
Get colder and colder.
Oh, the old guy over here is kind of cold.
Thanks.
I could have
No,
told them a lot
they-
more.
I don't believe so, because they were supposed to be in at like 7:45.
And that stipend is one issue, it burns my stipend. They utilized that stipend in the wrong way. That stipend was developed for hiring 10 EMTs and giving them a stipend of $1,000 a year, and it never happened. So that was something that I developed when I was on the Board of Selectmen. I pushed that through back in the
Well, and
80s.
back in the
And
day
they
though, we
didn't
had
use
the
it
other
the proper
factories
way.
where there was
So that-
EMTs available.
To me, it's something in my crop.
I understand. But unfortunately, it's probably
I
one
have
of those
nothing
lines that has
against
to
paying.
evolve.
Don't
over
get
time.
me wrong, I believe in paying
I know
our
you do. I'm
EMTs,
not doubting that at all.
but not the way they were dividing that account.
Well, I
They were
think
giving
that's-
it to every Tom, Dick, and Harry,
Well, I think they've changed that now.
and that was bad. And that's where it came down to 75 cents an hour. Now it's down to $1 an hour.
Because they have less people.
But the thing here is, it wasn't used where it was established, is what I'm getting at.
All right. Parks and Rec, I'm guessing, is it coming tonight since they were supposed to be here quite a while ago.
They went upstairs.
Yeah, they're upstairs waiting for it.
So
They might be
I
still
will
up
have
there.
to get in touch with their chairman and see when they can reschedule to come in.
Who is their chairman?
I believe it's Mr. Lavash. I believe so. It's either him or Mrs. Ramsey. So I will touch base with Mr. Lavash.
I will have minutes from the last meeting, for our next meeting,
Okay,
with these minutes.
okay, we'll hold the meeting, the approval of the minutes till next meeting. We'll just do the two together. So, I will put forth a memo with regard to the hydrants to make sure that they are pressure tested and, I mean, 'cause again, if we're paying for a service, it needs to be usable. I mean, they want to increase our fee drastically, so I'll draft a memo to the Board of Selectmen so they can have it for their meeting. Is there anything we wanna discuss? Again, I gave you the budget book for Quabog. Like, their numbers are still gonna be changing, just like, some of Pathfinder may still be changing. Just because the state has not set their budget, we only have the first of 3 budgets from the state. So, until the other 2 come out, we won't have solidified numbers until, hopefully soon. But, probably not so many. Middle of April.
Was that first draft the one that you sent
You gonna have the book ready by then?
Well,
If you don't come out in April, you're gonna have a pretty,
we're gonna have to have our numbers finished by probably the middle of April, to have it for a town meeting. I hope we're gonna have it for voting, but if not, just like in the past couple of years, because we don't have good numbers, I've hand delivered them to the local establishments to get them out. Actually, last year I think I had them ready, we had them ready for, voting. By the skin of my teeth, I got them. I did a lot of driving that day.
I'll be gone the week of the 14th.
You're gonna be what?
Not the week of the 14th,
14th of what month?
April.
April. Okay.
April to the 19th.
Well, we have one more night of departments, the school's coming in the end of the month. Selectmen, I'm gonna try to get them in here for next week. And go from there. Let's start voting on some budgets, approval, the level funding,
What'd you say, you're gonna try to get the selectmen in here next week, is that what you just said?
potentially. That, well, I might see if they wanna come in the same night as the school. That'll save Brett up.
At the school,
Yeah,
maybe we have to go back upstairs.
why?
One.
Got more room up there.
I know, with this chair's much
That way they, you won't be thrown out of their seats.
It's our meeting.
Exactly, they can sit right here, 1, 2, 3.
So I think we have priority.
I just wanna make sure.
Okay,
We're still gonna consider trying to.
You
do
feel
something
confident
additional.
handling it,
we'll try.
doesn't matter to me.
Next week, we've got the sewer department coming in so far.
And does water department do with us?
Water department does not because
They're not
they're a
because
separate
of-
company. They are not the part of the town of Warren, they're just called the Warren Water District. Same with the West Warren Water District.
Don't come in.
Well, that's in the selectmen's budget anyways.
Interesting, the assets that they hold.
I mean, that was established way before my time, so I've never really understood the,
Well, it's a little distressing to hear a Hadley doesn't work near the elementary school, yet they hold on to assets. So,
well, hence the memo to the selectmen to have them look at those things and
Did they give you an excuse why the increase?
It wasn't our place to ask the selectmen, because they send the bill to the selectmen were gonna talk to the water district as of the meeting on Tuesday night. So,
That's about how it usually works.
I mean, we don't pay the bill.
No, I was just curious what the increase is, that's all.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, what the amount is?
No, why?
Oh, why? I don't know.
I mean, it's the same hydrant you had last year, right?
That's correct.
That probably didn't work, and it probably didn't work the year before, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
Guess we'll find out. Somebody will-
Anything
Yeah,
else
you'll
to be
find
talked
out.
about tonight?
could you send me, after the next meeting, once we do the selectmen and the school committee, send me the new spreadsheet updated so I can do the pie charts and all that good stuff? Rather than me just keep doing it over and over, I mean,
Well, they should be pretty well.
Can I ask you a
defined,
question?
As far as numbers go.
If, say there's 5 hydrants that don't have the proper pressure, right?
Yeah.
I'll use what you gave.
How many
me to write
years
them
back
up.
would that go?
I have.
I think I put them.
How long have we been renting those hydrants?
Since the start of the water district, I guess.
Okay, so, and it's never been pressure? Is that what you're saying?
No, they been pressure.
Well, I'm saying,
They ran pressure tests.
all right, my question,
Every time they put a new one on, they pressure test.
my question is, the chief was just here, the ones on South Street that are low in pressure,
Yeah.
that we've been paying for, right? Correct? How many years have they been low in pressure?
Since the West Warren Water District revamped.
How many
the
years,
system.
how many years ago was that?
Well, let me see. I was on the Board of Selectmen in the 80s, middle 80s.
Okay, well, my
87.
point is, if we've been paying for hydrants all these years, right? That we shouldn't have, maybe you can, you know what I'm saying?
Would you have to go and look at the test that was done? If they didn't have if they had a test, you couldn't go back at them. If they didn't have a test, how do you know that the pressure was good or was not good?
That's right.
Right, well, if who's
If they-
responsible for the test is one
If they did
thing.
not do a test, how do you know that a water pressure in the hydrant wasn't satisfactory?
Who is responsible for the test, for one thing?
It would be the water commission, as they've been telling you.
Okay,
for
so
a
if
while.
they don't have the records, they're responsible, okay?
Answer your question, going back to the hydrant in front of the elementary school. That came about, they are not capable of fire protection for the school. When the school was built, they were supposedly put in a tank, a holding tank.
They did.
They did.
And that holding tank was supposed to supply the water,
Okay, all I'm getting at is if there's a way to get some money that's been paid for a service we didn't get, maybe somebody can figure that out.
Well, I think that Sue said that she was gonna write a letter to see with this, where the system was adequately pressurized or not. And then that, the selectmen came back to Sue and tell Sue that yes, they were, or no, they weren't.
But it's
And
still,
therefore, it would be their job to go back and say, okay, it wasn't properly pressurized, therefore, we're going back X number of years when it wasn't pressurized.
Okay, and we still don't even know what the increase, why, the reason, and so, I mean, it's.
Well, as Sue said to you before, she's gonna submit a memo to them requesting why the increase.
No, selectmen are.
No, you're putting a memo to the selectmen,
With
the
regard-
selectmen is going to
With
do it.
regard to the pressure testing and making sure that all the hydrants are working up to
Standard.
standard. With regard to the rate increase, at Tuesday night's selectmen's meeting, they were discussing it. I suggested to them that they ask the water district what the reason for the
Yeah, but
increase is.
as I understand it, you're going to write them a memo asking them to get that information for you.
Well, I can reiterate what we discussed on
Okay.
Tuesday night,
Okay.
okay?
That's-
Anything else we wanna talk about tonight? Okay, so review everything, be prepared to start making some decisions. I know we've talked about some changes that we potentially could make, and, because we gotta start making some votes so we can put the book together and get it out to the taxpayer, and start working on our presentation if we're gonna do one.
Well, then you can do the thing for the conservation, because he's the chief.
so are we still level fund, is our goal to still level fund as a committee or to be under budget for another?
Where most of our budgets are bare bones, I would like to keep it as close to at least level funding,
As
so we can
possible.
maintain the current services that we have. I think if we start reducing too much, we're gonna have to cut services. I mean, when I give out the budget books, I mean, you can see how much is left over and on the lines. It's not a heck of a lot. I mean, back in the day, we used to have, $300,000 or $400,000 of free cash. We're down to 90.
You- You'd have to give them a viable budget. If they don't have a viable budget, they'll be coming in for rats.
Well, they wouldn't be able to buy things. I mean,
Yeah.
trucks would break down, they wouldn't get fixed. Tires would go flat, they wouldn't be able to get them because if they can't spend something they don't have. The only reason they can come in for a rat is for an unforeseen
Unforeseen thing.
or an emergency.
If I had a truck that wasn't operating, it would be an unforeseen or emergency.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Ready to go?
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Huh?
Aye.
Is that what you said?
See you next Thursday.